To another California Guy video with your boy California Guy. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this video. This is a video. Again, I'm doing a video response to the She for You and the brother. I forgot his name. You guys got to leave it in my comment section. But they were on New Possibilities show, and it was debating religion. And I heard some of New Possibilities video on religion. But I'm here to offer California Guy's perspective on pro blacks and religion. Excuse me, people, on my phone. Yeah, so now religion has been instrumental in black people's lives since Africa. Black people always believed in a higher power. When we were captured by slaves, all we had to hold on to was faith and religion. Faith and religion held the slaves together, believe it or not. Nat Turner was a minister. Slaves believed in God. Without the black church, and I'm not talking about the black church as of today because they've disappointed me, but without the system of the black church, you wouldn't have had rebellions. The black church and Christianity led to black rebellions in the South. It triggered that. Without the Bible and Christianity for black people, we wouldn't have had John Brown. John Brown was a Presbyterian minister. He was a Presbyterian minister out of Connecticut with his Bible. Now he's white, but he said God told him to go on this rebellion. He went on a suicidal rebellion for each and every last one of us, people of black descent in the United States, or our ancestors, slaves. Him and his sons. He sacrificed his sons and his congregation, along with African Americans at the time, to stop the act of slavery in the United States because he said it was wrong under God's world. It wasn't God's rule to have human beings as slavery. Many Christians and Christian individuals felt it was wrong to have slaves here. And I'm not talking about the white slave masters who corrupted the Bible and put their own version of the Bible in there. But the true Christians thought it was wrong to have African American people as slave and human cattle and bondage. And many Christians wrote articles. They didn't want them to come into the South. If you look back into history, they didn't want white Christians from New England states such as Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, and places like that, New Hampshire, to come into the southern states. In fact, a lot of slave masters were starting to keep them away because they had different forms of literature on Christianity, and it was telling black people that it was wrong under God's rule to have slaves. God wasn't going to continue letting black people suffer in the United States under slavery and Jim Crow. That's why we had a war. Jim Brown and his sons triggered a war in the United States. They triggered a war, literally. The power of Jim Brown. And he was Caucasian. And not just Jim Brown, but the slaves with him, the Christian slaves that was with Jim Brown. A lot of churches in the deep South, and see, a lot of you blacks do not understand the power of Christianity and the black church. A lot of those black churches were starting rebellions in the South. They start to fight. All this stuff about in this propaganda that the church is weak, the black church is weak. A lot of you guys don't know your history because the black church was instrumental in starting the rebellions up. Harriet Tubman was she was a Christian. She carried her Bible and her gun. She did that under God's rule. She could have left and went somewhere else and escaped, but Harriet Tubman came back and she freed so many slaves from the South. And she was a spy through the Civil War, she was instrumental in helping the North in the United States against the South, the insurgents, with the terrorists known as the Southerners, because they rebelled. But the rebellion started with blacks through the church rebelling against white supremacy. They was going against the United States and the Southern way of life. That's how powerful the black church was. That was your first test of black militancy. was through that church. And again, I'm not talking about the black church of the last maybe 20 years, but we can't confuse what's going on today with over 200 years of history. In fact, slave masters were so paranoid that they tried to install some of the overseers in the black churches, the puppet black churches in the plantation. That's just how paranoid they got of the black church. Of doing Jim Crow, the black church was instrumental again in newspapers. Understand how black people was going through going through a form of supremacy in the United States. Like Germany, like Nazi Germany. If you guys ever knew about Nazi Germany, that's basically what black people went through in slavery and Jim Crow. Jim Crow was ran like Nazi Germany. So we had to figure out ways around this supremacy, the white supremacy United States at the time. We had to figure out ways of going around the United States government because the United States government was not protecting black people. So we used the church again to get newspapers, black newspapers, into southern towns. We used the black churches to smuggle forms of money to black cities and black neighborhoods when you had white patrollers still and sheriffs that monitored, because that was going on in the latter half of the 19th century and going into the 20th century was a form of supremacy going on, just like Nazi Germany, just like Iran, and black people was under that heavy rule. We could not make money the way we wanted to, but the black church helped when it came to making money. In fact, more black churches burned down in the Deep South in the Jim Crow era than any era in the United States. So for any African American person to say that the black church, it means absolutely nothing, need to go back into their history books and read that, because the black church was very strong and very powerful at the time. The black church was instrumental in forming schools such as the Tuskegee Institute. That was through black churches' money that helped to form black colleges and schools. It was the black churches who helped black kids to get into school. They were teaching them how to read through Sunday school and places like that. So the black church was instrumental, and it gave us Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. That's what the black church produced. One of the greatest leaders in the United States of America, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. That's what we got from the black church. So for any African American person to say that the church, okay, yes, do you have corrupt people today in the church? Yes. Do you have people in the church that don't do nothing? Yes. But to say that the black church does not have no historical value is absolutely wrong. And that's a reality. The black church is very instrumental to black people's lives, going back to slavery all the way up into almost modern time. Black church helped to bus African American people into certain districts to vote for Barack Obama. They was instrumental in even that. The black church was instrumental in a lot of great leaders like Medgar Evers and again Dr. King. Frederick Douglass worked to the black church. So it wasn't just like the black church didn't mean, their values didn't mean anything. God and black people work hand in hand together. The reason why the black community is suffering today because black people don't have faith today. That's one of the reasons why the black community suffers so hard with black on black violence, is because black people stop believing in God and practicing his laws. Black people stop getting married. Black people is into gay stuff. A lot of black men are homosexual. A lot of black women are lesbians and bisexual black females who, and in fact, a lot of these black females do YouTube videos that you guys see that's proud bisexuals. So, because black people don't believe in God no more, we're losing our community. Our community was run on Judeo values. That's what black people of the black community was ran on, not per se this white atheist mentality. That's why the gay stuff is running rampant now in the black community, because black people stop believing in God. And until black people believe in God, we can get rid of the sins of gays. We can get rid of the sins of black on black violence and taking our of kids back from the debauchery that's going on. Does it cure the community? Yes. The black church will help the community along with the community helping themselves. So I disagree with a lot of black people when they say that the black church and black Christians don't mean anything, because it means a lot. Because if a lot of you black people mean that, then get in Dr. Martin Luther King's face and tell him that. Get in Nat Turner's face and tell him that. Get in Medgar Evers' face and tell him that. Get in Al Sharpton's face and tell him that. So many African American people who believed in the Lord. Get in John Brown's face, who sacrificed his sons. I don't know many black people who would sacrifice their own kids and themselves for the sake of other black people that's of African descent right now. I don't think any of you guys would do what John Brown did. And John Brown triggered the Civil War. He triggered the war, which split the country in half, literally tore the United States up and its economy because of John Brown and his bleed in Kansas that he did in Kansas, up in the West. He stopped slavery from expanding by murdering of slave masters. He murdered slave masters. He started a rebellion, and the rebellion started through the black church, and the rebellions will continue through the black church. The black church is going to continue being a power in the United States. And I, for one, support the black church, because without the black church, we have nothing. Like Dick Gregory said, the black church was instrumental in giving black people the news when black people couldn't get the news. A lot of black people could not get black papers at the time in the South. So black churches smuggled them in. Again, I know I'm repeating myself on that. So we need to get it together and stop listening to white people. Peace out.